Welcome back to the BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel, North and South, by Elizabeth Gaskell.
It's a fantastic one. So much depth.
Absolutely. Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and, well, the hidden meanings behind the story.
We're going on quite a journey, aren't we?
We are, from the seemingly tranquil English countryside to the bustling, smoke-filled heart of the industrial North.
Following Margaret Hale's transformation.
Exactly. And those huge clashes of conscience and class that really define her world, honestly, it's an absolute masterpiece, just brimming with social commentary, deeply human drama.
Oh, definitely. And we have so much to explore today.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, Gaskell really masterfully sets the stage. It's a story that fundamentally challenges perceptions, and delves deep into the human condition.
Right.
What's really interesting, I think, is how that initial setting, what we might call the Southern Idyll, it's very quickly shown to be, well, not quite so perfect. There's this immediate tension, this subtle undercurrent of unease, and that really sets the tone for the complex journey Margaret's about to embark on.
Absolutely. So our deep dive begins with Margaret Hale herself. She's 18, just on the cusp of adulthood. And when we first meet her, she's sort of immersed in this world of fashionable society.
Right, Harley Street,
Yeah.
London, with her aunt and cousin.
Yeah, the refined elegance of it all. But Gaskell immediately signals Margaret isn't, your typical young woman of the time, not just white muslin and blue ribbons.
Yeah, no, not at all. Even with all the chaos of her cousin Edith's wedding preparations going on.
Which sounds quite elaborate. Dresses, ceremonies, Corfu.
Exactly. Even amidst all that, Margaret has this quiet dignity and a really observant nature. It sets her apart.
She's not just in the scene, she's watching it, processing it, almost with a critical eye sometimes.
Yes. And Harley Street itself, like you said, it's more than just a location. It's almost, well, you called it a cage of gentility earlier, and I think that's spot on. It represents that Victorian upper middle class leisure, where idleness, especially for women, wasn't just accepted, it was almost expected, a sort of badge of honor.
Right, like Edith, whose life seems to just revolve around finding a good match, the wedding, the exotic life ahead.
And Margaret picks up on that. She sees Edith's idleness, Gaskell calls it a half-suspected observation. It hints at Margaret's deeper, more critical nature.
She sees the surface, but glimpses something maybe a bit hollow underneath.
Precisely. It foreshadows her own journey, which is going to take her so far from these accepted social norms. It's less about the obvious wealth and more about the invisible constraints it imposes.
That's a really great point. Invisible constraints.
Yeah.
And that observant nature, that independent spirit, comes into play pretty quickly, doesn't it, with Henry Lennox?
Ah, yes, the proposal.
He's Captain Lennox's brother, sharp guy himself, also an observer. And he's immediately drawn to Margaret.
You can see why. She's different.
And their conversations, they reveal so much about her, especially her love for her home, Hellstone. She struggles to articulate it, famously saying it's like a village in a poem, in one of Tennyson's poems.
It's more than just a place for her, isn't it? It's an ideal, a sanctuary, beauty, order, all that.
Yeah, deeply cherished.
Yeah.
So Lennox proposes. In the garden, very classic setting.
But her reaction is anything but classic.
No, her refusal is decisive, almost abrupt. Gaskell talks about her high maidenly dignity, but also hints at this inner sense of superiority.
Which maybe clashes a bit with her politeness on the surface.
Right. And it's not just a whim. It feels like a deep rejection. Like Lennox, for all his good qualities, just doesn't meet some unspoken ideal she has.
Absolutely. And it hits Lennox. He gets quite sarcastic later. And it makes Margaret herself reflect, doesn't she? She questions her own coldness.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, in that era, turning down a proposal like that from a man of his standing, it was unusual, maybe even a bit shocking.
Her cousin Edith would never have done it.
No way. Edith would have clung to Captain Lennox, Gaskell says. Security, social standing, that was the priority. Margaret's independence, her refusal to just follow the expected path, it really marks her out.
Sets her up for a different kind of life, a more challenging one for sure.
Definitely.
And speaking of things not being quite as they seem, even Hellstone, her perfect home, isn't entirely idyllic when you look closer.
No, Gaskell cleverly weaves in these whispers of discontent, hidden fears.
Yeah, her mother, Mrs. Hale. She's chronically unhappy, isn't she? Always lamenting their narrower means, the lack of proper genteel society.
Dismissing perfectly respectable people like the Gormans just because they're tradesmen, it shows how rigid her class ideas are.
It's like the beautiful setting can't quite hide the family's internal anxieties.
And those anxieties are deeply rooted in the time, I think. Victorian worries about social mobility, about keeping up appearances, especially for women like Mrs. Hale. Her identity is so tied to her husband's position.
Status is everything to her.
Exactly. And the lack of genteel society feels like a constant reminder of, well, maybe a perceived slide down the ladder. Then you have Mr. Hale retreating into his books.
His speculative and metaphysical books, a clear sign he's wrestling with something big.
Definitely hinting at that crisis of conscience brewing beneath the surface. And then there's poor Frederick.
The mysterious brother, whose room is kept just as he left it. A huge, unspoken family secret hanging in the air.
Casting a long shadow. Even the maid, Dixon, who's fiercely loyal to Mrs. Hale, sees Mr. Hale as a kind of blight.
Wow.
It shows how deep the unease runs, these unspoken burdens, the secrets, the anxieties. It suggests that Hellstone, the Southern idol, it's already crumbling from within long before the big move north.
And that crumbling, it really picks up speed with Mr. Hale's crisis of faith. It's a huge shock, isn't it? For us, and especially for Margaret.
Oh, absolutely devastating for her. He reveals he's resigning from the Church of England. Deep-seated doubts of conscience.
Gaskell calls it terribly mysterious. Shocking. Margaret sees her father as the one staid foundation, and now that foundation is just gone.
That's a seismic shift, threatens her whole world.
To really get the impact, you need the context.
You absolutely do. When he mentions the 2,000 who were ejected from their churches, he's not just dropping a random historical fact. No, he's invoking the Great Ejection of 1662. Hundreds of nonconformist clergy forced out for refusing to conform to the reestablished church. It's this huge historical echo of theological, political division.
So it's a massive moral stand he's taking.
Massive. And it would cost him everything. His livelihood, his social standing, the respect of his community. Giving up his living, as they called it, wasn't just about money. It was his whole identity, his family's structure.
And he feels it acutely, Gaskell says. He blames himself, even links the timing to his wife's wish for a better position.
Which shows his humility, his sense of responsibility. It's clearly not a decision taken lightly. It's a profound moral struggle.
Despite the devastating consequences.
Exactly.
And those consequences are immediate.
Yeah.
Stark. This crisis leads directly to exile, basically. A complete leap into the unknown, moving to Milton Northern.
And the financial reality hits hard, their income is slashed, and they're still sending money to Frederick, wherever he is.
Yeah, it highlights just how vulnerable they suddenly are.
Yeah. And the choice of Milton Northern, it's not random, it's suggested by Mr. Bell.
Frederick's godfather, Mr. Hale's old tutor.
Right. He sees an opening for a private tutor there. So Mr. Hale's new path is teaching classics to these rising manufacturers.
Men described as conscious of their own deficiencies. It's ironic, isn't it? They want the classical education Mr. Hale represents to sort of cement their own new status.
It is. It sets up this fascinating dynamic immediately. The old world of learning meeting the new, raw world of industry.
But for Margaret, the idea of moving there is just awful.
Oh, she's full of prejudice, a detestation for all she had ever heard about manufacturers, the wild and bleak country of the North.
So what's the appeal? Is there any?
Well, Gaskell gives us one tiny sliver. The thought that it will be different from Hellstone. That simple desire for change, born out of desperation, really.
And that sets up a central theme, doesn't it? Overcoming bias, challenging what you think you know.
Absolutely. Milton is going to force her to confront everything.
And it falls to Margaret, poor Margaret, to break the news to her mother.
The dutiful daughter again. It must have been agonizing.
And Mrs. Hale's reaction is, well, predictable, I suppose. Wounded pride, complaints about smoky air, disdain for factory people.
It's heartbreaking, really. It just underscores the weight Margaret's carrying. Mrs. Hale is already fragile, and this feels like another step down socially for her.
It really shows the emotional toll on women whose identities were so tied up in family status.
Definitely. But in this awful moment, we also see Margaret's strength really coming through. Remember what Dixon says?
Ah, yes. The loyal, grumbling maid.
Dixon observes that Margaret has a touch of the old gentleman about her, as well as poor Master Frederick.
That's such a telling line.
Isn't it? It signals her leadership, her practical side taking over, her ability to anchor the family when her parents can't.
Despite her own sorrow about leaving Hellstone.
Exactly. She becomes the anchor, shouldering the emotional load, guiding them. It's a real coming-of-age moment forced upon her.
Okay, so the move actually happens, and Milton Northern is, well, it's a shock to the system, a rude awakening.
Understatement of the year. From the second they arrive, Gaskell hits you with the contrast. It's stark, brutal almost.
Margaret's first impression is just industry
Yes.
everywhere. That image of the great oblong, many-windowed factory, like a hen among her chickens, puffing out black, unparliamentary smoke.
Unparliamentary smoke, a great phrase. And it's not just visual, is it? It's the sound, the constant clank of machinery, the long groaning roar of the steam engine.
Imagine that after the quiet of Hellstone. It must have been deafening, a constant sensory assault.
It's more than just moving house. It's a cultural and emotional shock. Gaskell uses these vivid, jarring descriptions, the smoke, the noise, the grime, the sheer scale of it all to reflect the realities of the Industrial Revolution.
It's the complete opposite of the natural beauty she left behind.
Totally. Even finding a house is a struggle.
Wow.
And the one they get in Crampton Crescent. Remember the wallpaper?
Oh God, the atrocious blue and pink paper with yellow leaves.
Uh-huh.
It initially repulses her.
Yes. And that detail highlights her refined Southern taste clashing with the, well, perhaps more practical or even garish style of the industrial North. But here's a fascinating little detail.
Go on.
We find out later, much later, that Mr. Thornton actually intervened quietly. He had that wallpaper removed before they moved in.
No way, really?
Yeah. It hints at this unexpected connection, this quiet act of maybe consideration,
Right.
long before she has any positive feelings towards him. It shows Gaskell weaving these complex threads right from the start. Even the house becomes part of their story.
Wow. That adds another layer entirely. Okay, so it's not just the environment. Margaret struggles with the people too, the whole social fabric. Finding servants, for instance.
Right, because the Milton girls, they prefer the mills. Better wages and greater independence, Gaskell says. They don't want the subservient roles Margaret expects based on her Southern experience.
It challenges her whole idea of hierarchy, propriety.
Absolutely. And she's initially really uncomfortable, even indignant about the factory girls. Their bold, fearless faces, their loud laughs and jests. They comment on her clothes, her looks.
Which would have been unthinkable in the South.
Exactly. It's a direct confrontation. This isn't just lack of deference. It's a kind of nascent working class identity asserting itself. Independence, self-awareness, directness.
They're not bowing and scraping.
No, they're outspoken. And it forces Margaret to confront her own prejudices, the limits of her perspective. She's meeting people valued for their work, their spirit, not just their birth. And women have a different kind of agency here.
So how does she start to bridge this gap? Because she does, eventually.
It starts with human connection, small moments, like when she meets Bessie and Nicholas Higgins.
Right, the mill worker and his sick daughter. She meets them while out walking.
Almost accidentally. And Margaret spontaneously gives Bessie some flowers. It's more than just kindness, isn't it? It's like this unspoken lament for the sweet profusion of the South she's lost, an offering of beauty in this grim place.
And that encounter is pivotal.
Incredibly significant. Bessie, with her pale blue eyes, her wistful longing, she immediately humanizes the factory people for Margaret. They stop being just a faceless mass.
And Bessie is so frank about her illness. From the mill work. I shall ne'er get the whir out of my ears or the fluff out of my throat in this world. It's heartbreaking.
It forces Margaret to see the direct human cost of all this industry, the suffering behind Milton's prosperity.
And Nicholas Higgins, the father, the union man, he says something important, doesn't he?
He does. He observes that North and South has both met and made kind of friends in this big smoky place. It's a key thematic statement.
Gaskell does it through these personal interactions, not big speeches.
Exactly. They chip away at Margaret's prejudice. It's the beginning of genuine empathy, starting to break down those class barriers. It lets her see beyond the grime and noise to the people themselves. Resilient, suffering, but deeply human.
Okay, so Margaret's world is expanding, challenging her. And then there are the Thorntons, specifically Mr. John Thornton. The master manufacturer himself.
His first visit to the Hales for tea, orchestrated by Mr. Hale. And Mrs. Hale is, well, being Mrs. Hale, complaining about the preparations, looking down her nose at Thornton as the only tradesman in Milton who appreciates her husband.
The class clash continues right in their drawing room.
Totally. And Margaret's initial view of Thornton is fascinating. It's still prejudiced, but also quite sharp.
Yeah, she thinks he's not quite a gentleman. That's a class thing kicking in. But she immediately sees his expression of resolution and power. She recognizes he's made for his niche, strong, capable.
It's a mix, isn't it? Prejudice, but also this sort of unwilling admiration for his strength. Definitely. And the Thornton family dynamics are intense, too. Mrs. Thornton, his mother, fiercely proud of him, of how they climbed up from poverty.
And she's immediately suspicious of Margaret, sees her as this aristocratic girl angling after husbands.
Projecting her own stuff, maybe, her own hard-won status. But John Thornton, interestingly, defends Margaret's haughty civility, even though she's clearly reserved with him.
So there's maybe a spark there, or at least he sees something beyond the surface.
It suggests a depth, yeah. It shows the potential for connection based on character, despite the huge social differences.
And Thornton himself, he's the absolute definition of a self-made man, isn't he? His backstory is incredible, almost brutal.
It really is. He tells them about his father's wild speculation, the failure, the suicide, left the family absolutely destitute, miserable circumstances.
And he worked his way up from a draper's shop.
Which utterly shocks Mrs. Hale, of course. Confirms his tradesman status.
But he becomes this wealthy mill owner and pays off all his father's debts, quietly, dutifully.
That story is absolutely key to understanding him, his whole philosophy. His mother's strength was crucial too, her resolve. He talks about years of struggle eating water porridge. Yeah. So his view of education, of life, it's intensely practical. Not one bit of Homeric inspiration helps when you're fighting for survival.
No room for abstract ideals.
None. He embodies that northern spirit of industry, capital, labor. He believes in mother wit, self-reliance, hard work, and wise despotism.
Right, that phrase, wise despotism. It sounds pretty jarring today. What exactly does he mean by that?
It's a provocative term. Gaskell chose it carefully. For Thornton, it's not about being cruel. It's about the master, the employer, holding the reins, making the decisions he believes are for the good of the workers.
Because he thinks he knows best? Understands the market, the need for profit?
Exactly. He sees himself as this paternalistic leader, providing jobs, stability, but expecting obedience, efficiency in return. He genuinely thinks his foresight protects their livelihoods.
But it highlights that huge power imbalance.
Totally. It implies the workers lack agency, that they don't need or maybe can't handle understanding the bigger picture or having a say.
So while maybe he intends it well, it denies them a voice.
Yeah.
Sets up conflict.
Precisely. It's that nascent capitalist ethos clashing with older ideas and definitely with growing humanitarian concerns. It's the ideological core of the book, really.
And how does Margaret react to all this? His story, his philosophy?
It's a fascinating mix again. She can't help but admire his strength. His integrity paying off those debts is huge. His drive.
Yeah.
But she feels this profound pity such a nature should be tainted by his position as a Milton manufacturer, especially his way of testing everything by the standard of wealth.
She respects the man, but recoils from the master.
Something like that. She struggles to reconcile the person she respects with the industrialist whose principles feel alien, maybe even morally questionable to her.
It shows her own prejudices still, right?
Yeah.
Against trade, manufacturing, that southern gentry thing.
Yes, but also her moral compass. She instinctively questions the human cost of all this focus on profit. It sets up this internal battle she has to fight against her own preconceptions as she slowly starts to understand him and Milton better.
And while all this industrial tension is simmering, personal tragedy is brewing back at the Hales.
Yeah, Mrs. Hale's health takes a serious downturn. Dr. Donaldson reveals it's a deadly disease. No hope.
And Margaret is hit with this awful reality. Her mother is dying. She becomes the primary caregiver, carrying this huge emotional weight, pretty much alone.
It's devastating. And Gaskell creates this powerful parallel between Mrs. Hale's illness and Bessie Higgins's worsening condition.
Right, Bessie's fading too, ravaged by the millwork.
Finding comfort only in religion, her Methodist fancies, longing for the land of Beulah.
That heavenly paradise, escaped from Milton's grim reality.
Yeah. While her father, Nicholas, gets grimmer, more determined about the strike, he sees Thornton as a bulldog, unyielding.
Gaskell connects the personal suffering and the social unrest so effectively.
Masterfully. Illness, economic hardship. They cut across class lines. Shows the vulnerability, the suffering that affects everyone in this changing society. No one's immune.
So the tensions in Milton are personal now, not just social. The air's thick with industrial strife. But for Margaret, there's this other storm gathering. Family secrets.
Yes, her mother, in this moment of desperate clarity before she gets too ill, reveals the truth about poor Frederick.
He's an outlaw, wanted for mutiny. Margaret finally hears the whole story, Captain Reed's cruelty, Frederick's principled stand against it.
It's another massive shock for her, but it also deepens her understanding of moral courage, maybe, and arbitrary power.
Definitely. And it puts her in this impossible position. Loyalty to family versus the law.
A law that feels unjust in this case. Mrs. Hale is desperate to see Frederick one last time, and Margaret makes this incredibly risky decision.
To write to him. knowing he faces the death penalty if he comes back to England.
It's huge. Mr. Hale supports her, but admits he wouldn't have dared do it himself. It just highlights the risk, the moral weight on Margaret.
It echoes the bigger themes, doesn't it? Justice versus power. Frederick's mutiny, seen as righteous against cruelty, mirrors the workers' struggle.
Absolutely. It forces Margaret to act on what she believes is right, regardless of the law. Shows her courage, her capacity for selfless action.
Meanwhile, the industrial debates are heating up too. We see it clearly at Mrs. Thornton's dinner party.
Oh, that scene is brilliant. Margaret observes the sumptuousness, the display of wealth, finds the ladies' conversation dull, just talk about expensive things.
Social one-upmanship.
Yeah, but the men, they're animated, intensely discussing trade, capital, the strike. It's like two different worlds at the same table.
A microcosm of Milton.
Exactly, and it becomes an ideological battleground. Thornton is there, confident, thoroughly dignified among his peers. Still a bit formal with the ladies, though.
And he lays out his views. Capital, labor, the strike. Insisting on his right to choose what we will do with it. That wise despotism again.
But Margaret quietly counters him, mentions the human right.
It's the core clash, isn't it? Property rights, free market efficiency versus the human cost, moral obligations, the worker's dignity.
Absolutely. Neither side really gets the other's perspective at this point. It sets the stage for confrontation.
And then the confrontation happens. The storm breaks.
Yeah.
Literally. The mill riot.
The tension leading up to it is palpable. That restless, oppressive sense of irritation among the workers gathering at Thornton's mill, Boucher's face livid with rage, desperation fueling it all.
The air just crackles.
And then it explodes. The crowd tries to break in. Thornton is facing them down in real danger.
Margaret, what she does next is just instinctive.
Heart-stopping moment. She sees him in danger, throws her arms around him to shield him from a thrown stone.
His here self draws blood, which evidently disperses the crowd for a moment.
It's courageous, spontaneous, but the meaning gets immediately tangled up. Was it love? Or just human compassion? An impulse to protect someone in danger?
She's horrified, isn't she? Ashamed that it might be misinterpreted, especially by Thornton, as a declaration for a man she's argued with, disliked.
Yeah, that hideous, sickly swoon she feels afterwards. It's heroic self-sacrifice, but it leaves her feeling vulnerable, exposed.
Yeah.
And it leads straight into more misunderstanding.
The fateful proposal, born right out of that violence and confusion.
Thornton sees her action as undeniable proof of affection, love. He proposes immediately, passionately, tender intensity of passion. He thinks this is it, their moment.
But he's read it completely wrong, or at least she lets him think he has.
Oh, the misunderstanding is profound. Pride on both sides. Margaret's response is freezing, icy tone. She dismisses it. It was only a natural instinct. Any woman would have done just the same.
Ouch.
And then she doubles down, says her sympathies were with the poor, desperate man and all that crowd over him. Basically, I don't care about you. And the killer line, personally, I don't like him at all.
Brutal. Why is she so harsh? Shame? Prejudice? Confusion about her own feelings, maybe?
Probably all of the above. Deep shame at being seen as in love with him after disgracing myself, as she sees it. Her ingrained disdain for his position, maybe genuine confusion, it fuels the sharp words.
And Thornton.
He's deeply hurt, crushed, convinced she despises me and everything he stands for.
So this moment of intense connection, forged in danger, becomes this moment of profound division.
Exactly. Pride, class, misinterpretation. It drives them apart, sets up this long, complex journey towards maybe, just maybe, understanding each other. It's testament to Gaskell's psychological depth. #Tag6, lingering echoes and uncharted futures.
So after that huge climax,
Yeah.
the riot, the proposal, the rejection, there are these lingering echoes, consequences.
Things don't just go back to normal.
No, Margaret's dealing with the physical pain from her injury, but also this intense emotional turmoil. The interview with Thornton replays in her mind like a horror in a dream. She's deeply shaken.
And her father is still largely focused on her mother, almost oblivious to Margaret's inner state.
Yeah, it highlights how much he's carrying alone.
But this period is crucial for her growth, isn't it? Her actions, the consequences. They force her to confront her own biases, the complexity of why people do things, maybe even her own feelings. It's a real crucible.
And amidst her turmoil, Bessie Higgins is dying.
Yes. Finding solace in revelations, longing for that land of Beulah, her peaceful escape. And she sees Margaret, interestingly, as a breath of country air, a vision of strength, peace, even in Margaret's own distress.
It shows Margaret's impact even when she's struggling herself.
Exactly. Gaskell keeps intertwining the personal grief, the social upheaval, shows how connected everyone is in Milton, rich or poor, and it deepens Margaret's empathy. She's not just watching anymore, she's involved, feeling it.
So as we look towards the end of the novel, or at least beyond this first major arc, there's still so many threads left hanging.
Oh, absolutely. The story is far from over at this point. Frederick's potential return is still a huge danger.
The strike is ongoing, casting this grim shadow over Milton, keeping tensions high.
And the relationship between Margaret and Thornton, it's raw, damaged, a wound that hasn't healed at all.
The future feels really uncertain for everyone, but one thing's clear. Margaret is profoundly changed.
Irrevocably. And the novel leaves us, the readers, you, the listener, with this big question, doesn't it? Given everything we've seen, the clashes, the connections, the misunderstandings, what does North and South ultimately say about bridging divides?
Not just North and South geographically.
No, between master and worker, between pride and understanding, between prejudice and empathy.
How can those gaps be closed?
Exactly. And how might Margaret's newfound strength, her expanded view of the world, her deep capacity for empathy for the workers, and maybe eventually for Thornton too, how might that shape her future? And maybe the future of Milton itself as this industrial world keeps changing.
It leaves you with a sense of possibility, maybe, that understanding and compassion can make a difference.
I think so. A sense of hopeful possibility. That even the deepest divides can start to heal. It hints at a more integrated, more humane way forward. It's powerful stuff.
It really is a remarkable novel. And there you have it. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us in this story.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
If you enjoyed it, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than you know. Be good and take care.